Hello everyone and welcome to our weekly early comic review video we do every Monday. So much so that today is the July 4th, is the 4th of July, Independence Day here in the US, and we're still doing the video.
Yes, we can't let you down. You got to have your sweet comic book news.
That's right. Yeah, banks might be closed, but that's okay. They just do money. We have something better to
We
do.
have something better than money.
That's right. We're here to talk to you about all the new comics that are releasing Tuesday and Wednesday this week. You see, we have some very big books in front of us, so we're going to go over. We have many off to the side. We're also going to show their variants and incentive covers. So we call this our spoiler light review show, where we're going to tell you major things like first appearances, things like that, reasons you might want to get a book or several for collectability's sake. But past that, and more so really, we're going to tell you what these books are about so that when you go to your comic store Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever day, you know which ones call to you. You know which stories, especially number ones, sound better. I
Yeah.
have an indie book, for instance, that I bet most of you will not know anything about, and I hope some of you pick up. I'm looking forward to getting to later in the show. But let's go ahead and start with your first book, Andy.
Yes, my first book is Black Adam, The Justice Society Files, Hawkman. All of those names come together to tell you this is a prequel comic to the new Black Adam film. And there's going to be several one shots, I think four, if I'm not mistaken, that are spotlighting members of the Justice Society who are going to be in the movie and kind of giving you a better idea of what's the kind of status of these heroes in the cinematic universe.
Do you recall what month Black Adam's coming out in?
Is it next month?
Okay? All right,
I
good.
think
I was
so.
hoping it wasn't too far out because when they release these preludes too far ahead,
Yeah.
it's like nobody gets them, and then they end up in the dollar bin, and then the movie comes out and people flood the store
Yeah.
looking for them. So
So this one is really cool because it is, of course, I think Hawkman is a great one to start with. I think he's one of the, other than Black Adam, one of the big characters people want to see. So in this takes place, I'm assuming, I don't know the timeline of the film, but it seems like it takes place before the movie. So I'm just going to say this is a prequel to it. It does not, funny enough, have much Black Adam in it. Um, this takes place, it seems like a decent amount of time since the Justice Society was formed and then kind of dissolved for whatever reason, or it doesn't really go into it, but they've kind of all went their separate ways. They're still in communication. But Hawkman, of course, Carter Hall in this universe, as in the main comic universe, is an archaeologist, and he is going to kind of a museum exhibit of rare elements on Earth. So it's kind of hard to figure out what they would have other than the couple of things they mentioned. So they have kryptonite there, which I think is really cool. I know people have been kind of wondering about the current status of the DC universe, with Henry Cavill probably not in it anymore. Is Superman still around or whatever? But Superman is referenced at least twice in this issue, which I thought was pretty cool. Also, aside from kryptonite, they have nymph metal, or however you pronounce it. But the material that Hawkman's wings are made out of, the very uh, fabled DC metal that is where like Dark Knight's death metal got its name and all of that. Um, and so he's going to this just to look around. He's kind of like, I've seen all this kind of stuff before. But another thing that was at this museum is a lightning bolt shaped, I guess it's a rock. But they say, this is from, I think they say 2400 BC, and it's, so rare and it's crazy they got it here. Because he has a partner that's there with him that's kind of coaxed him into seeing this. But what happens? Of course, there's a flash of light or something, and that relic is gone, and now it's up to Hawkman to track down what happened to this lightning bolt shaped relic. So it's a fun kind of chase through a city issue where you see Hawkman in all his action and his suit and everything. Some characters from the Comic Justice Society that kind of get new. I would say a villain gets a new origin, or at least kind of a here's the movie version of this character, which I thought was really cool. So overall, I really like this issue. It's by Cavan Scott. Um, it made me look forward to the movie and to see Hawkman in it. Now I feel like I have a little vested interest in the Hawkman of this universe. This also has a backup story that is more about. It does have Black Adam in it, but as a child, and then how something in his childhood relates to the modern day that I think is going to play out through all of these one shots. And that is written by Brian Q. Miller, who I haven't seen write something for DC in quite a while. He wrote the old Smallville series and Batgirl for a while, so it was great to see him writing for this as well. So, really cool issue.
I just love to see the comics tie in with the movies. You know, the movies, they all come from comic inspiration, but too much they are separated. I like seeing them together.
Yeah, I believe also Dr. Fate's in this issue, which I think is cool. There's going to be a Dr. Fate, Cyclone, Atom Smasher, and Hawkman, I believe, are the four issues. I believe
you're right about that.
So this was our first one, and we have a photo variant for that one as well. Funny enough, doesn't have his wings out on a Hawkman cover. He just looks like a pointy eagle hat man. So, very cool. I do recommend it. You know, sometimes when they do those kind of books, tie-ins or whatever, they feel maybe a little half-hearted or, you know, an afterthought. I think this one actually feels really solid and helps build the richness of what the movie's going to be.
Yeah, and just a one-shot. It's not like a mini-series.
Yeah.
One shot for each character. And Hawkman has such a rich history, yet a lot of people don't really know much about him.
Yeah.
So, you know, good pickup before the film. So I read probably the big book of the week, Batman issue 125. It says right up in the corner, a new era begins. We have Tim Drake Robin there, adding a splash of color to Batman, who's otherwise in the shadows as always. And yes, Tim Drake is in this, and he's kind of creating the Bat logo there right on Batman's chest, which is really cool. So our new team is Chip Zdarsky, and Jimenez is doing the art. They are taking over. This is the beginning of their run. There is no there's no end in sight. You know, they're on Batman for the near future.
I think we knew Joshua Williamson's run was finite.
It was limited. They said he was coming on for a time until the next choice. And this is Zdarsky's run. I have to say, he has really hit the ground running. He's out the gates fast because a lot happens in this issue. First things to mention for collectability's sake, this has the first appearance of a new character called Failsafe, who they're saying is a villain. It is not really revealed this character is a villain. And what I will say is this links back. It's hard to tell how far Failsafe is back in time because there's a flashback with Alfred that has something to do with Failsafe. That's the most I could say about this. I would also like to say, I don't want to get into this, but a lot of sites are reporting first appearance. I'd call this first cameo. Failsafe gets basically one panel and says, like, you know, 3 words. That to me is a cameo. To me, cameos, you see the character, they have no real effect on the book they're in at all. But in any way, I don't want to split hairs here. First Failsafe. However, in the backup story, there's also the first appearance of another character called the Executor, who is sort of a robot lawyer who is the executor of a certain character's will. When you read the issue, you'll get. The backup story is really good to this, too. They're both written by Zdarsky, so they feed into each other even though they have different characters. So in the main story, there is a new killer in Gotham who is killing rich people. Basically, if you have at any point inherited over $5 million in your life, whether you're just born into it or somebody left it to you, he demands that you give the money away to under $5 million, I guess, or else he's going to kill you, and people do die. Now, this begs a question that people ask when we solicited this. Is Bruce Wayne still rich? This reveals that Bruce, while he is not the richest guy in Gotham like he used to be, he does still have money. He is still, he has more than $5 million.
He's not flat broke.
Correct. So Bruce Wayne still doesn't have enough money that he could be on this list. So in this, of course, the rich people are already having this gala. It's already planned. Are they going to put it off? Of course not.
No.
No, they don't. So that happens, and a lot goes down at the gala that I'm not going to reveal. There's some major violence that occurs to some characters. You'll have to read that part for yourself. Let's see. And then, okay. So there are some big revelations about a major Batman villain. That is the most I can say. It feeds in, it's from the A story, and then in the B story, you learn even more that it seems like it's leading to a mystery that might involve a lot of new first appearances. I'd say, a lot of them minor, some possibly major, but more than the first appearance aspect, it's a good mystery. Mm-hmm. Like I told Andy when I was done reading, I was like, oh, guess what I learned and guess where this is going. And, you mm-hmm. seem like you were fairly interested in that because this is adding to the mythos of a major Batman villain in a way we've never seen before. And it's going to lead to other characters that may very closely relate to them.
Also raises just some funny questions.
That's another good way to look at it, too. So a lot to say, but I don't want to ruin the read. That's probably the most I can tell you about this issue. So a few first appearances, some big revelations, a possible major death, and check it out. I mean, this is the first one Zdarsky's doing. I think you're going to know with this first issue if you dig this run or not. I am. So far, I thought this was really good. I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. And of course, since it's issue 125 and there's a new creative team, there's many variants for this to choose from. Here we have the Mattina variant. I got to catch that in the correct light. Yeah, because Catwoman stars in the B story. It looks like Catwoman is going to be more in the Batman book.
That's cool.
Yeah, than she has been in a while. In fact, she's in the A story a little bit. Then the B story is her story, along with a few other things happening. There's so much I want to say, but I can't reveal it. Okay, here is the Jim Lee variant.
Very classic.
Yep.
Jim Lee.
Here is the other Lee variant, as in Inhyukli, not to be confused. I knew at some point they'd both be on a book.
Yeah.
A lot of stores are going to be, a lot of people are going to be ordering the Lee variant and getting the wrong one. Yeah. I have a feeling. Here is the Delato variant.
If you order the Lee variant, you get both.
You get both,
and you gotta buy them.
Buy one Lee, get the other 50% off. Here is this is not really a blank variant. It's the Bats variant, but it is definitely made to replace the blank, where a blank variant would be, where you get your favorite artist to do something on it.
I like that they do that. It adds, something a little extra.
Some texture in the areas, some context. Then here is the Jimenez failsafe variant. This is one to grab. I've been hearing this one is going for over cover price already.
Yeah, and it's usually those were like 1 in 25 for those design variants.
It used to be, and this was open order, and I don't know if the image was ready at the time.
I don't think it was.
I think the image was late, and thus it was under ordered. Certainly not by our store.
No,
but by other stores. Here is the 1 in 25 Jimenez wraparound variant we're selling to our customers for $20. And that's it. So the last thing I'll say on it is I think we've had a lot of different flavors of Batman, from Tynion's run to Williamson's run to Zdarsky's run. I think this is a good one for everybody to sort of give the series another chance if you fell off from the other two. I think Tynion's was really good, but then it got very divisive later on. I think Williamson's was good, but it was kind of had that feel it wasn't going to last.
Yeah.
This seems like it's being set up to really last, and this is sort of a refreshing voice to Batman that I think is, at least with this issue, I think this issue is going to be very popular. So,
okay, I got to ask, is Nightwing brought up? Because he is like the most wealthy person in Gotham at this point.
Correct. So he's not, and that's because he's in Bloodhaven.
Man, these villains and their technicalities.
Yep. So.
You just step over a line, you're like, now I'm the richest person over here.
And since I'm reading both books, I had an answer for that.
I guess Bloodhaven's not considered part of Gotham. It's a suburb or something.
It's just its own place.
Yeah,
pretty much. They have their own mayor.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, next up, one that it's hard to talk a whole lot about because it's very dialogue based, but I did want to bring this up. also because I have a lot of DC books and I've got to break it up with some other stuff. This is Avengers Forever, number 7. So what I think when this series is its strongest is these kind of one-off stories where we get to explore other versions of characters and just very weird scenarios. So if you had read the solicitation or heard us talk about it, it's not too different than that. Steve Rogers, Steve Rogers, wakes up in a prison and he can tell there's somebody else in another cell. And they get to talking. He's like, "My name's Steve Rogers." The guy's like, "That's funny. My name's Steve Rogers." You can see where it's going. Turns out everyone in this jail is named Steve Rogers. Now, there's not a whole lot of them. I'd say there's 5 or 6, including a dog. Of course, they're like, "Oh, look, it's a dog," and they look down at his collar, and it says, "Hello, my name is Steve," or something like that. So they know his name is Steve Rogers as well. But there's also a shadowy character that is in a cell who is very grumpy and is kind of being like, "You guys are never going to get out of here. I've tried," all that kind of stuff. Well, this turns into kind of a prison break issue with a bunch of characters called Steve Rogers. So they're come in all different shapes and sizes and even species. Uh, but there is a twist to this issue you'll see at the end. I will say there are first appearances, like in these multiversal issues, there are first appearances of versions of characters. Sometimes you can tell when you read one that like one is a standout one over other ones. This does have the first appearance of a character named Weapon America. So you'll have to read it to see what form of Steve Rogers' Weapon America is. You can probably maybe figure it out, but I think this is kind of the standout character from this issue that may go on into some other ones. Plus, we get a little bit more of an idea at the very end what Ant-Man and some of the other Deathlock and the bigger characters that are kind of running through the series are up to. And there is a bunch of other first appearances at the end that I won't give away, but I will say one of them is a gorilla, and I always love gorillas in comics.
And you did tell me, because I asked, no Cosmic Black Panther.
No Cosmic Black Panther. Yeah, I would say every character in this, other than the 3 Avengers characters that we know have been going through the series, everyone else in this book is named Steve Rogers. So if you just want a lot of blonde hair, blue eyed, different characters working together, that's what this is. But it was a very fun issue. I really enjoyed it, and I think it kind of sets up some pretty fun stuff coming up in this book. If you haven't checked it out, you can even check out this one issue and enjoy it. So this is Avengers Forever number 7, and we have this Vecchio variant
with Somnus.
Somnus for Pride Month. Nice to see Somnus pop up in stuff, even if it's just covers.
I would hate to be the warden of a prison that only has Steve Rogers in it. I mean, you're just
Yeah.
you're gonna lose. All right, so I read the latest issue of Black Panther. This is Black Panther number 7, and despite the fact this is a great Alex Ross cover, lots of cool characters on it, you don't see Tosin here. Good news, Tosin is in this issue, and quite a bit. Yes, this is the most Tosin I think that we have gotten, other than with his introduction, issue number 3. So let's back up though. What's been going on in Black Panther is that there is a coup that has been happening from inside the government. All right, somebody is trying to take over, and it's gone so far in the last few issues that Black Panther had to give up his mantle and is now being hunted by government agents who are told, to kill him. And so it's up to T'Challa and his remaining allies within the government, including the Prime Minister, Shuri. Storm is actually she's been in it, and she's kind of helping to try to stop this coup. But the problem is the whole government's against them. So all the soldiers, everybody's against them. It's funny how quickly they forget all the years T'Challa was like, the greatest guy ever to them. Of course, he had been doing some things behind the scenes that really have turned on him, as people have learned out. He had secret agents all over. So beyond this, where does this bring in Tosin? So Tosin is part of this sort of group that disagrees with the way that Wakanda has been governed for a long time. In fact, in this issue, you're going to learn a little bit more about Tozin's powers. He does have powers,
Hmm.
and they have to do with vibranium. His people have learned a different way to deal with the vibranium than how the regular Wakandans have been using it. And I'm really interested to see where this goes. It's a more organic way. It's not like they're just forging things out of it. It's almost like they're sort of fusing it with their own biology.
Hmm.
So I think by the end of this issue, you'll clearly see how Tozin could be a very, very powerful character. And with T'Challa and his people on the run, they're going to sort of link together in this issue. You'll have to see how that happens and where it's going to go. I think next issue is actually going to conclude this arc. So I think something, fairly status quo important might happen as of next issue, or might really give Tozin a way to stay in the book and stay relevant. I'm not sure about it, but I think it concludes next issue. So, but I thought everybody would like to hear about that. And so we have the Silva variant, and this is one of those sideways variants.
The postcard.
Yeah, the postcard. Come visit Wakanda variant, and we have the Duurso Hellfire Gala variant. That's Marvel's way of getting characters onto books that they're not really in.
Okay, next up for me is Dark Crisis #2. So you can see on that cover, you have a fight going on. If you look closely, you can see that is Nightwing and Deathstroke fighting under the Titan's Tower. So what I will say about this issue, and I can kind of lump it in with Flashpoint Beyond #3 that came out this week. Best 2 issues of each of their own series. So I liked Dark Crisis #1. But it did still feel very much like a setup issue. It was very, here's your pieces, here's everyone kind of mourning the loss of the Justice League. It was good, but it almost felt kind of like the Free Comic Book Day book again, kind of echoing those same story beats. This issue, I think, is exponentially better and starts to actually feel like an event book. So you can tell the scope of this is way bigger. Of course, we have Pariah, who I'll say the first 2 panels of this book are great because both of them have a little footnote that said after Perez. So they're recreations of old, I believe just Christ on Infinite Earths panels with Pariah. And great to see that. I don't know if I've ever seen an homage panel. I've seen covers.
That's done within the story.
That's done within the story that I love. That was a great little touch in that. But we know Pariah now is trying to bring back the Infinite Worlds from Infinite Crisis. But to do that, he has to destroy Earth Zero, or the main DC Earth. So I thought that was good. It starts off with giving you like hey, here's actually what's going on. This is his motivations. That I thought was nice to kind of catch me back up on what's going on. But at the end of the previous one, we saw a big attack from Deathstroke and a whole host of villains up against the Titan's Tower. Now, this is kind of funny. When I mentioned this to somebody before, they were like, wasn't that just rebuilt in Titan's Academy? Yes. Hopefully they didn't unpack their bags, because it's not looking good for the Titan's Tower. But this attack is so big that Deathstroke is leading, that pretty much all the students, everybody, get taken out pretty fast, except for Nightwing. This is such a strong Nightwing issue, where it's basically just him standing up to this whole host of villains. But Deathstroke, he's got a little bit of an ego, and he says, good, I want to fight you one-on-one. Which, it's the ego that does them in. But this has a great Deathstroke versus Nightwing fight that ends pretty surprisingly. We get some more characters coming into this issue in a way that I've been wanting to see those characters. It's all very vague that I'm saying, but trust me, there's some characters doing some very cool super heroics in this. Also, we get Black Adam. What has he been doing? He was the one who came to him and said, like, hey, this crisis is coming. What does he say when he finds out that Jonathan Kent has put together his own Justice League team? And he's not too impressed with the team he's put together. This issue does address, I feel like, some problems people have had with, like, why did Jonathan Kent pull these characters together? Why not these other characters? And, all this kind of stuff. That's kind of addressed in this issue. Also, there is the return of, I know, one of my favorite characters who's been kind of MIA for a while, that sets up some really cool stuff coming in the future of this series. Hopefully, the next issue. But it looks like some cavalry may be coming in to help out with this. We also get a little bit of idea. It felt like in the first issue there was two separate stories, the stuff with Pariah and the stuff with Deathstroke. You basically, if you can kind of put the pieces together, figure out what the connection is, that is the same story. It's not two separate stories. So really good issue. The art is fantastic, especially this Deathstroke Nightwing fight. I think that is enough of a reason to pick up this issue. Great kind of capper to stuff that's been going on in the Teen Titans. You do find out the fate of Beast Boy after he pretty much got taken out pretty horrifically in the previous issue. So that is just a scratching the surface of what happens in Dark Crisis #2, but highly recommended. If you're kind of iffy on the first issue, read the second issue and then decide, because I think this may change a lot of people's minds if they were on the fence.
Yeah, it's tough because comics are a little short, and so often first issues are set up,
Yeah.
and then they really start rolling after that.
So we have some variants for that as well. I believe we are out of the B cover, but we do have the 1 in 25 variant. This one is by Fuccio, that we are selling for $20. Very cool, very artsy. And then we have a 1 in 50 from Perio. That seems pretty close to what's happening in this issue, that we're selling it for $25.
Okay, so one I've been enjoying vastly is Twig. So I read Twig issue #3. I believe this is a 6-issue series. And so as of last issue, Twig and his companion Splat, you see dead center there, the little yellow thing, they were put, their course was straightened out by the Nectar Manster last issue. And so they're back on their quest in this one, and of course a new danger rears its head. We get to see a little more what Splat can do. We get to see some Splat abilities this issue, which is really, really good. And it's just more, if you like the first, so you'll like this one, more of the really cool story, but more than that, the art, the environments, the character design, it's all just top notch. Every single issue of this, I just love looking at the panels. It's just, really refreshing and creative art style with two likable characters and a story that's good, but it's nothing that's gonna make you have to reread each part twice. You get what's good and evil, what's bad and what's good. There's also a sort of a dream cameo of what looks to be possibly a major villain, maybe the person trying to destroy this world. And I have to say, from the shadow looks a little bit like Twig, so it could be another
Anti-Twig
creature like him. But we'll just have to wait and see. So Twig #3, another great issue. I mean, if somehow you haven't started reading this one and you're wondering about it, just open it if your comic store will let you do that, and just look at some of the pages, and you'll know if it's for you or not. So as far as the variants, we've got a Peach Momoko variant. This may have something to do with some of the danger they face. Here is the Scotty Young variant. Once again, another example of the danger they face. Here is the 1 in 10 Strom Virgin variant of the main cover that we're selling to our customers for $15. And then here is a 1 in 25 of that Momoko that is the Virgin variant that we're selling for $25.
Okay, my next one feels like it just tails along right with the last one, is Flashpoint Beyond #3. So I really like this issue. As you can tell on the cover, it is the return of Flashpoint Superman. And in this issue, we get the origin of Flashpoint Superman. I have to strain my brain back to 2011 when I was reading Flashpoint, the original one, to try to remember how much of his story I knew. I knew that something happened, and instead of being raised in Smallville, he was raised in like a facility where they deprived him of light, and so he didn't have his strength, all of that. Well, we actually get the origin, his Kryptonian origin in this one, which of course is very similar to the main universe's version, but he did not crash land in Smallville. He landed somewhere else, and just like everything in the Flashpoint universe, it's just terrible. What was hopeful for this farming couple in the main universe means devastation for others in this version. But even Superman, you can't, at least in this version, you cannot corrupt him. There is still good in him, even though all this terrible stuff that's happened to him. We have Thomas Wayne, who is still looking, basically does not care about anything going on in this universe. He just wants to know why he's here and how to leave. But he confronts Superman, and you'll have to see where it goes from there. But we do get some more answers to what's the big storyline going on here. Kind of a ticking clock is put into this that, we've got a certain amount of time before something arrives. So that kind of gives us some stakes in this, other than just kind of Batman meandering around trying to figure out how to get out. There's now some peril going on with a very cool interpretation of a classic Superman idea. On top of that, we have some more mentions of Flashpoint characters that I really like, Element Woman and some of those, but there is mention of some new characters that I feel like we are going to be seeing coming up. So much so that their reference of like, there's a kid over in this city that got this power. There's one over here that got this. He's going by this name. That I think we're going to be expanding our superheroes in the Flashpoint universe. But the last thing I want to say is, and this is very funny, I kind of skimmed this a while ago. We are able to look at a digital copy of this that they let retailers preview and everything. And I got to the end. There is a pretty big final page with, I would say, a major death in it. But there was 2 extra pages in this by a different artist that I feel like they omitted from the other one so it would not be spoiled. Now, this I feel like is important. I don't want to spoil why this is important. It does have to do with kind of hyper time, the omniverse, all of that. But for those of you reading Dark Crisis and Flashpoint Beyond, those books may be closer than you think. There may be a reason why there's 2 kind of event books going on at once, and they could have some relation. I'll say that. Very exciting to read that, to be like, oh wait, that has me more invested in both of the series now. So if you read it, you'll see what I mean, but very, very cool. So that is our A cover for Flashpoint Beyond #3. We have this really cool, this is the Zermenko variant, which those characters there do come into play in this issue. We have a 1 in 25 Marquez variant with your Flashpoint Universe version of the Justice League, which we haven't seen a lot of those yet, but they have been mentioned.
And we're selling that one for $20.
Oh, yep. That one is $20. Actually, I really, really like this one.
Okay, so Strange Academy #18 is out this Wednesday, and it is the final issue. That is very sad. This has been such a great series. But don't despair. I have good news for you. It is revealed at the end of this that it's going to continue. That's right. There's a nice little write-up page at the end that says that Strange Academy will be back with a new #1 for second semester with the same creative team.
Oh, I know that was a
I,
big
I
thing
think
people
that's
didn't
the
know.
best part of it. Yep, it says same creative team. So I mean, they could always change their minds, something could change, but that's what it said. And it said this summer. Now this has been delayed a lot, and seems to me we're already in the summer, so maybe it'll be back in the fall. But anyway, I think the major point of this book, or really my review, is that Strange Academy is not over. Coming back with a new #1 with the same creative team. First I've heard of that. I had to read it to find out, and that's why you watch our show. Past that, Emily has staged a walkout for the students of Strange Academy because the admin has been unable to stop numerous bad things from happening. And lately, they kicked one of the classmates, Calvin, out of the class, and they find that to be very unfair. Well, the students, it's not just that they can just walk out of class, they have to hide. You know, they have powerful teachers who can track them down. Well, if you read this, you will find out the very clever yet dangerous spot they all decide to hide out, and sort of the mischief they get up to is it's very amusing, very funny. But what happens when by the end of the book the teachers do discover the students? Will they go back to class willingly, or will it be a student versus teacher battle? I wonder what would be more exciting to write and read about. And lastly, will the students finally come back to Strange Academy, or have they found an even more dangerous home that they might be heading into as a cliffhanger ending? Very good final issue for this volume 1 of Strange Academy. If you've been reading it, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I'm just really happy that it's going to continue with the same creative team. And so, as far as variants, we just have this Delgado variant. Howlin' at the Moon.
Okay, my next one is a pretty surprising one this week. This is Spawn 331. So you can't really tell stuff from the cover of Spawn issues. They're always a cool picture of Spawn, but don't really relate to the interiors. This is the one where he's got a heart.
Yeah,
Spawn
heart.
has a heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very surprised starting to read this that this is a pretty major lore issue for the Spawn universe, especially with I can never pronounce his name, but Spawn calls him Cog, but he's all the way back from the very beginning of the Spawn book. Was kind of the back alley guy that was teaching Spawn the ways. Turns out he was a bit more. He was actually Cain from Cain and Abel fame. This goes through his entire history and what his time in hell was, how he was one of the first people to wear the Spawn symbiote. He was there when it was created with some familiar faces that were used to create it, and all the way up to now where he kind of has this new form. So if you're a big Spawn fan, it's very cool to get a very deep dive into a character that has been around so long. I think people will be very excited to read. So, very cool issue of Spawn 331, and we have the Barbary variant as well.
All right, I read Poison Ivy issue #2 of her new miniseries, where she's going on a road trip to try to kill off humanity to give Earth back to the plants and the animals. And in this issue, she has stopped at a roadside diner where she's collecting her thoughts about the whole thing. Meanwhile, of course, everybody in the diner, one by one for different reasons, ends up having talks with her. And a lot of them are really nice people that sort of make her wonder, hey, is all humanity bad? But I will say this issue further solidifies Ivy as a villain again. There are more innocents that are killed, maybe even more innocent than the previous issue. You know, I was shocked when I read the first one. I was like, wow, they're really leaning into Ivy is a villain again. And in this one, you're going to see more of that. But that truly is what the issue is. It's just Ivy in this roadside diner meeting people, and then some real messed up stuff happening, and some of it having to do with her and killing more innocent people. So here we have the variants.
So it sounds joyful and fun.
Yeah, it's more thoughtful than either of those, I would say. But here is the Ward variant. Here is the Row variant, which I don't know. This one, like when I saw it at first, it reminded me a little bit of like Hellboy Magnola, just a
Yeah.
touch. Here's the Frizen variant. And then we have the 1 in 25 Martinez variant that we're selling to our customers for $20.
It's very nice. It'll be interesting to see where that series goes. You know, does it end with some kind of redemption, or is it literally we're getting her back to being a villain?
Ivy has a lot to go through. She lost godlike powers,
Mhm.
and she's really upset about it, and she has not seen humans do anything good, in her opinion, other than that she has her affection towards Harley.
Mhm.
I think this is about a transformation for her, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she's going to come back from the bad things she's doing in the series. So.
Yeah. Okay, next up I have DC versus Vampires #7. So after the pretty long hiatus of DC versus Vampires, we got some of the one-shots. We got that really great Hunters issue. We got we had the Damien issue and the Harley issue. We are back, and this actually picks up after DC versus Vampires All Out War, which is not out yet. So you can kind of determine from this issue what happens in that one, which I think is weird because it's even noted in there. Like, this takes place in this, coming out this date. And it's like, oh, it seems like you would want to have that out before. I don't know. But we kind of pick up with some characters we have not seen in this. At least I don't remember seeing them, but we have characters like Adam Strange. We have Director Bones, which I feel like he would be pretty good against vampires. You just try to bite him, and it's like, what's going to happen?
You got to bite to the marrow. That's his blood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have characters like Peacemaker. We have, I think his name's Wild Dog, with the hockey mask and everything.
Right, yep.
He was on the Arrow show. We've got a kind of a new cast of characters who are going towards kind of a fabled safe house. They don't know everything about it. They know the location, but they don't know what the safe house is when they get there. Of course, does not go great for them. There is an ambush. Many characters you know and love do die in this. Even Director Bones gets it pretty rough in this. But they are saved by a mysterious character that you do find out who it is, but I don't want to ruin it because it is very cool. Ties all the way back into issue 1 of DC versus Vampires. And is this fabled safe house real? And where is it that the vampires cannot find it? When you find out, I love it. I love when they kind of take DC lore and play with it, of like, of course this would be used for this and that kind of thing. You find out maybe who else is safe here and what the plan is going forward. Who is going to try and reverse the vampire disease? Who is after just determined to kill Dick Grayson, the king of the vampires? And where is Harley? We found out at the end of that last one-shot issue that she pretty much is carrying the cure for the disease. So what happened with her, you find out at the end of this. This was a really good issue of DC versus Vampires. I think people are going to be very excited to see where it's going. We have this great A cover. We have, of course, the Matina variant with, I believe, Harley on there. It's very dark, like most of Matina's. And we have this 1 in 25 Lyrics Lee variant that we are selling to our customers for $20.
Okay, so next up is that independent book I spoke about at the beginning of the show, where I was saying this is a lot of why we do these shows, is to tell you about books where you'll see it on the stands and you won't know what to think. But some of these can be the best books. I think this is probably my pick of the week for a few reasons. This is Starhenge Book 1, The Dragon and the Boar by Liam Sharp. So Liam Sharp did everything in this. He did the art, he did the writing, he did everything, the titling, like the lettering. He did the whole thing. And this is 30 years in the making. He has been working on this
Wow.
project for 30 years, off and on. It's
We
been a
owe
little
it to
side
him to buy
project.
it. Like,
At least check out the first one. But let me tell you about it, because I'm not trying to say this is like one of those comics where everyone is going to dig in, everyone's going to be into it. It is hard to explain because it is so ambitious, yet it's not going to wrinkle your brain too much. You know, it'll wrinkle it just enough. Uh, I think the best way to say this is like a futuristic Arthurian legend. It's going to start in the future, but it goes back in time eventually. This issue stays mostly in the future and in present day. It starts out by telling you how eventually humanity does reach the stars, and we get far enough that some aliens actually capture some of us, and they scan us and they learn our greatest fear is ourselves. So they create things that look like people, but it's really them, and they're sending them our way, possibly back through time. I'm still waiting. We'll need issue 2 to fully see that part. I think they're going back to Arthurian times. But of course, this is the sort of thing that we can protect ourselves against to some degree. There's a lot of narration from our main character who is actually in our current time, even though it feels like the 90s, which I think is a lot of when he was writing this, which I think is awesome. I mean, that's
yeah.
my favorite time period. And when you hear some of what I compare this against, I think you'll understand. In fact, this narrator brings up a lot of pop culture things. She brings up things like things that are near and dear to me, like Terminator, Edward Scissorhands, Doctor Who. These are all referred to by our narrator, which I think is cool because, you know, people have experienced these things just like we
Yeah.
have. It gives us a sense of who she is. She's a very, like, sort of dark-minded young artist. And there's even talk about Einstein and his theories and how he was right about mostly everything, except he was wrong because he didn't discover that magic was real. You know, a lot of his physics were right. I mean, this is a brainy, creative work. The art is beautiful. It has that Liam Sharp painted artistry, last seen in Batman Reptilian lately. Reptilian was very gross art. This has more of a feel like it's like H.R. Geiger and Terry Gilliam and did a mix of Blade Runner and sci-fi Arthurian legend. That's the best way I can say it. The story, there's too much for me to tell you about in this one issue. It is oversized. This is the first of 6 issues, which are going to comprise book 1.
Okay.
So this is number 1 of 6, a long time in the making. To me, this is what independent comics are all about. This is a single artist vision that's being told that you would never see at the big companies, and that I'm glad is making it into the light of day. Some of you are going to open it, you're going to fall in love with it, especially if you like just sort of those dark, brainy 90s gritty comics and movies and the things that I was just talking about. Some people are going to open it and be like, nah, this ain't for me. It's just, you know, not my style. But regardless, it is bold and it's ambitious and it stands out. I don't feel like he wrote this to be marketable. I don't feel like he wrote this to, like, you know,
Yeah.
try to compete with anything before. It feels like something he made that he thought was awesome, and I appreciate that. So that is the best I can do to describe Starhenge, Book 1, Dragon and Boar, issue number 1. It has a lot of variants, possibly more than any book that's this complex needs, but they're really good variants. So check these out. So here is the Perkins variant, and some of this alludes to what's going to happen because I haven't seen a lot of these characters yet.
Yeah.
You know. Here is the Ben Templesmith variant. You know, he's a great artist to tap for something like this. Here is the McCormick variant, and that is our main character, in a sense. I haven't seen her like this yet. Here she is, more how we see her in this book. Here's the Weston variant. She is the gothy-looking one, hanging out with the football player. the thing behind them doesn't really appear quite yet. Here is the Ward variant.
If you were to show somebody all these variants and say, "What's this book about?" it would blow their minds.
Here is the brown variant.
It's very Giger, 90s.
Yep.
Sci-fi.
And then Liam Sharp, of course, had to do his own variant with the main character on it again.
I think you've convinced me to try it out at least. I think everyone, for a book like that, it's like, just try it out.
The issue one, like, it made my mind explode. You know, I don't know how much I'll love the story overall, but the art, everything it's drawing from, you know, just very awesome.
It's super cool. Okay, so next up I have The Closet, issue 2. So this is the halfway point. This is only 3 issues long on this very, feels very, I don't know, it's very personal to James Tynion, but it's written from a perspective of, like, he either knows some people like this or experienced things like this. Yes, it is about monsters in the closet, but that's a pretty small portion of this book. It's, like the first one, very much about family and about relationships and fears that come from those, and, you know, dealing, like, parents dealing with kids, and, you know, how much should you, you know, play into, there's a monster in the closet. Do you play into, well, I'm going to defeat it, or do you say it's not real? Just kind of the complexities of being a parent and being a kid and all of that. If you liked issue 1, you'll like issue number 2. It's very, I feel like it's less easily accessible than some of his other works. I think 3 issues is the right amount of time. There's not a ton of characters in it. It feels like it's telling a pretty singular story, and I think that's for the best. So that is The Closet, issue 2. And we have a 1 in 25 variant. This is the Walsh variant that we're selling to our customers for $25.
All right, so I read the second issue of Steve Rogers' new book, Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, #2. The cool Alex Ross cover. I think he gives Marvel a discount if he could just draw more Captain America.
Yeah.
Alex Ross, it's got to be one of his favorite characters. So last issue, Steve Rogers, he wanted to get some anonymity, so he kind of got an apartment in the middle of nowhere. He made some new friends with the locals. But, of course, a bunch of action happened, and he learned that maybe his shield has a history that is more sinister than he ever knew about, and it might link in with Bucky as well. So this continues from there. Cap actually gets some good intel from one of his new friends, and this intel sends him to another country where he discovers people are definitely doing something with the symbol on his shield and a bunch of technology that is wild and crazy. I don't even know what to make of it yet. You know, we're talking like, are these aliens? It's so crazy. They look like humans, but what they do, it's like, wow, what is going on with this shield and these people? So definitely some first cameos, but these people are nameless. You know, it's sort of like group in the shadows. Mm-hmm. Each one seems to be over a different sort of sector of what they're doing. You'll have to read that part for yourself to see what you think. Pretty wild. Meanwhile, Bucky is following up the mystery on his own. You know, he sort of has gone his own way, and he runs into a Captain America character we haven't seen in some time. That's sort of the surprise climax at the end. You'll have to see who that character is. So that's what's going on. And Captain America Sentinel Liberty #2. For variants, we have the Koella variant. And then we have the Peach Momoko variant.
Well, next up, I have Amazing Spider-Man #5. So this rounds off our first story arc with Spider-Man and Tombstone. This is also issue legacy number 899. So the next issue is our big 900th issue of Amazing Spider-Man, and this one, it's a very interesting. After the last issue, where basically Tombstone tricked Spider-Man into taking out a villain for him. Spider-Man thought he was doing something else, realized that he was actually doing Tombstone's work instead of working against him. But is Spider-Man kind of okay with that? Maybe they've just found a new partnership. You'll have to read it to really see how that works out. I'm interested to see how Spider-Man would be okay working with a villain like this. But we don't get any more of the what's going on with Mary Jane, but we do get Black Cat and Peter talking about a little bit more about maybe what had happened and why after our time jump, Peter Parker is so down and out. We don't get a whole lot of details, but we get a little bit. So I'm very much looking forward to the next issue. I know that's when we're getting the Sinister Six amalgamation where they're all just crammed into one character. I think it's going to be very big, and maybe we're going to start getting a bigger idea of this story and what led to this point. So that is our issue number 5. And it's drawn by Romita Jr., so Peter Parker's face constantly looks like it's been just beat to death. He is swollen and could barely see out of his eyes. We have this. This is the Mercado variant. Very cool, very clean. And we have this super cool Daughterman Hellfire Gala variant.
Okay, so I'm excited to see Thor Love and Thunder. That comes out this week. But if you need your Jane Foster before then, Jane Foster, The Mighty Thor issue number 2 is out this Wednesday. No, it does not have anything to do with the movie, but still, it's got Jane Foster as the main character, and she is Thor again. So how did that happen? Last issue, a masked villain gathered most of the major Asgardian villains. You know, each one of these are like big enough villains. They usually take on Asgard by themselves. Gathered them, got them to attack Asgard all together. Also, Thor is missing, and Jane Foster found out about it because Mjolnir, covered in blood, appeared in front of her, like was hurled down, just lands there, and the voice of Odin, because Odin's spirit's now in the hammer, started speaking to her. So she took the hammer up, has become God of Thunder again, or Goddess of Thunder again, rather. And so in this issue, Odin from the hammer tells her a tale of what he knows, what happened to Thor. And it's not the full story, but it's a lot of here's what part he was around for. And so she gets to hear that story, she tries to theorize who's doing this, and she's trying to figure out where Thor is. Meanwhile, you have Valkyrie and Beta Ray Bill and a few others trying to protect Asgard from these villains who are way outgunning all of them, especially with no God of Thunder or Odin around. So a very difficult task is what they're up against in the second issue of Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor. So for variants, we have the Horley variant.
Sounds cool.
We have, is as cool as this battle, the Yoon variant.
That I need to actually see that.
Maybe it happens in the issue. I don't give away all the spoilers. And here is the Peach Momoko variant.
She's about to pick up Mjolnir, but then 3 dots rise up.
Appear, yeah.
Okay, so my next one is the long-awaited, well, I guess long-awaited since the previous issue when we thought it was the last issue, issue 15 of Joker. This is the final issue of Joker. This is, I believe, an extra-sized issue, but it does still have the punchline backup story in it. So how does this all end? It ends with a conversation between Gordon and Batman. And Batman's basically asking Gordon, did you do it? Did you kill the Joker? So, of course, I am not going to reveal that, but we get a lot of recap, and a lot of recap from Gordon's perspective about everything that's happened and kind of his opinions on things. We get some closure to Bane and Vengeance, which I think is interesting. I have a feeling we may see something with them coming up soon as a team. And I think the bigger thing to mention this is the Punchline backup story, which ends kind of the what's been going on with her, where she was arrested, and then how she's getting out of jail. She finally faces off against Bluebird in this, Harper Row, and it is revealed at the very, very end in text that Punchline will be back. This was announced yesterday online, but it's kind of confirmed here. Punchline will be back in Punchline the Gotham game #1 this fall, and apparently that's supposed to be an ongoing Punchline title.
Yeah, that's what I read too. Yeah, Punchline's first ongoing series.
So I like that. I like that we know where that character is going. Joker, we always know he's going to be back. But since Tynan, this was his created character, we kind of, when he's not around, we don't know what characters of those are going to pop up. So it's nice to see they've kept her around and that she's going to be in something.
I think there's a lot they can do with Punchline, particularly because she is such a newly created villain. She was made in the era of social media, and that's what her character is about. Mm-hmm. It's about manipulating public opinion. I mean, where are the villains doing that? I think a lot of the villains of our world are doing that.
Yeah.
So I think there is a ton they can do with her if they get a good writer on that.
Yes. Yeah. And we've got some great variants for this. We have the Ruin variant. We've got, of course, this great Brian Bolin variant where Joker is upgraded to a smartphone. He's probably got to ask Punchline how to use it and how to send a text and everything. But that one's awesome. And we have a 1 in 25 March variant that we're selling to our customers for $35 with Bane and Vengeance. She didn't quite get his bulk. It's a little bit smaller than Bane.
I don't know if anybody wants his bulk.
No. Doorways are a real problem for him. Yeah. Low-hanging ceilings, all that.
Okay, so I read issue number 5 of Batman Killing Time. So this is the penultimate issue in Tom King's story, which is told throughout time and intentionally out of sequence, where each page will kind of tell you this is when it's happening, and it is definitely not sequential, but that is intentional on Tom King's part. That can be a lot of fun. And this issue has a lot of fighting and killing at the beginning of it. Now, I'm not saying it's major characters. It is lots of different characters from gangs, but it's like pages and pages of this gang war to the death. Shocking beginning. I mean, pretty close to R-rated, if you ask me.
Wow.
But after that, you got Batman, who has teamed up with the Help to try to stop Catwoman and Riddler from getting this all-powerful object, which is the Eye. You might already have figured out where the Eye is from. If you're thinking Odin, you're not right. That's incorrect. But I won't say it. You'll just have to see. Now, what can it do? I don't know. It still is not revealed. I mean, I have ideas. Other people probably have ideas. I don't know. But by the end of this issue, somebody will have it. And I mean like in hand. Like last panel, I have it. It's right here. I'm about to use it. So, which makes sense because it's leading up to the last issue. So, as far as variants, there's a Kel New variant, but we're out of the variant. So,
okay, my next one is, make sure I grab the right one, Star Wars Halcyon Legacy. This is for issue number 4 of the 5-issue miniseries. This one's really cool because this is a story, as you can see on the cover, with Lando, also Maz Kanata, and Hondo Anaka are all aboard the Halcyon. And it seems like something, there's some treasure on board that Maz Kanata wants, and it does tie back in with Force Awakens. I'll say it does not explain this item, how she got it, or how did it end up here, but it is nice to see references to things from the movies that people have kind of been wondering about. So, another fun issue of Halcyon Legacy, the penultimate issue. There is also this slimy connecting variant. And I did want to mention, because I feel like people are going to be asking, when does the Mandalorian comic come out? It feels like we talked about it forever ago in Comics from the Future.
Delayed.
It's been delayed, but it is currently slated to be next week. I believe the 13th is next Wednesday. So it will be hopefully out then, and I will talk about it. It'll probably be one of the first things I talk about.
Yep. So tune in to our show next Monday, and hopefully, Andy, it'll be right here up front,
Yes.
right at the beginning. Okay, so I read Carnage issue number 4, and as good as the story was, I think one of my favorite things is the cover. Look at this frightening cover by Kendrick Lim did this cover. Not a name that I recognize offhand, but I mean, if they can do something like this, watch out for more art by
Watch out, Ron Lim. There's a new Lim in town.
Yeah, by Kendrick Lim. So the Carnage symbiote has been free of Cletus Cassidy for a while. It's trying to do its own things, but Cletus has left a bit of an imprint on it to where it is still very evil. In fact, it's thinking very big. It has lately discovered that it can absorb other people's powers. It's taken Hydra Man's powers. It's taken the Spot's powers. What is Carnage's plan? Well, as of last issue, Carnage revealed he plans to do what Null was doing. He saw how big Null was thinking. He wants to go kill gods. So in this issue, Carnage and the little serial killer buddy he has, they go to Asgard where they start inflicting some pain. Meanwhile, you have Detective Jonathan Shade, who I predicted would be a major character based on the name right off of issue number 1. And Jonathan Shade got infected with some of the Carnage symbiote, but he basically has the part that has Cletus Cassidy in it. It's like Cletus Cassidy is in his head. And in this issue, Cletus Cassidy explains, here's why I'm going to help you possibly stop Carnage. Can he, believe him? Can he not? Does he even have a choice? Well, by the end of this, they end up in a place for help where you're going to see a Spider-Man character you haven't seen in a very long time, somebody possibly related to Spider-Man. And that's as far as I will tell you about that.
I have a theory.
That's what's going on in Carnage issue number 4. Here is the David Nakayama variant.
Well, speaking of messed up stuff, we've got Ghost Rider. This is Ghost Rider issue number 4. This series is fun because it's kind of a where does Johnny Blaze wake up now and have to figure out where he is. Of course, this time he wakes up in a truck stop bathroom naked. And doesn't know how he got there. He just knows, of course, Ghost Rider was involved. He talks about Ghost Rider kind of leaves him messages wherever he wakes up, because knowing that he won't remember it. There's things like written in fire around the room. Cannot be safe. We also see, how does all this happen? How many leather jackets does Johnny Blaze go through? Well, we see in this, when a man knocks on the door because he needs to use the bathroom and he's wearing a leather jacket, Johnny Blaze just punches him, takes his leather jacket. So I guess he has an endless supply of people to steal their leather jackets. But in this, his next place he is heading to, he ends up at a pretty messed up circus. Very interesting, where maybe they're clowns, maybe they're demons. You see some pretty iconic carnival things, circus things, that end horribly. Like, let's call somebody out of the audience and you can be a trapeze artist. Well, they jump off and of course they just splat. Or how many people can fit in a clown car? I don't know. If you just keep pushing them in there, it'll get messy. This is a very twisted, dark Ghost Rider story. But, of course, he's going to take them on. Only thing I wish in this was, and I think it's happened in some previous issues, right when we get up to the point of, like, Ghost Rider's going to do something, he pretty much blacks out. And we don't get to see that confrontation. I want to see Ghost Rider versus the Circus of Crime. I just want an all-issue where he's just whipping the chain and smacking clowns and top hat people in the head.
Maybe there'll be a flashback issue. You get to see all the different things
Yeah.
you missed previously.
I would say it's close if you watch the Moon Knight show and he's like about to go into a fight and then he wakes up and there's just people laying around. It's very similar to that. But very cool, and you get an idea where he's going next, which may be one of those famous races that Ghost Rider has to enter into. So excited about that. This has been a good series. I just want more Ghost Rider in it, but that's just because it's so good I want more. We've got also a Peach Momoko series cover. She has a series coming up, but this is a cover. And we have the Gomez Fortnite variant.
All right, so I read the final issue of the 5-part series, What If Miles Morales? So this is the last issue of it, and yes, all these characters are in it and together. It starts out with Miles from the Marvel Universe that we know, and he gets jumped by his Uncle Aaron, but from the multiverse. So it's not the one, that he knows, it's these multiverse ones. And it's several of them from different universes that are mashed up with different villains. So if you want to see which villains Uncle Aaron's mashed up with, you'll have to read the issue. But of course, Miles isn't on his own for long because the other Miles versions from issues 1 through 4 come to his aid. And so this issue is just a big old brawl between multiverse Miles and multiverse Uncle Aaron's, who are different heroes and different villains, just battling it out. You'll have to read it to see how the battle goes, to see how it all ends. And that's about all I can say on it, really. I mean, that's what the issue is.
Yeah, I think that's what the whole series has been leading to.
Too much, yep. And so here is the variant. Here's the action figure variant by John Tyler Christopher.
Okay, then we have Saga issue 60 out this week. Now, all of my notes on this, all I say is it's out and it's sad. So I will not give away why that is, but this is a sad, sad issue. Even the cover is a little bit of a hint towards that, but it may pull a few tears by the last page. So that is out this week, and of course, with Saga, no variants.
All right, so Batman 89 issue 6, the final issue is out.
Wow.
This week. Yes, this is a much delayed series. Unfortunately, got off to a really good start, and then they just delayed it and delayed it. I've really enjoyed every issue, though.
Yeah.
I truly have. This has been great. This could have been, so it was written by the writer of the first 2 Batman movies, the Tim Burton ones. This could have been the 3rd movie, and it would have been a damn good movie had it been the 3rd movie. So in this issue, just for instance, it opens with a full page of Two-Face's face, and he's in an argument with himself. Multiple panel, multiple balloons. The argument's great. It's a really interesting morality argument on the bad side trying to say that what he's doing is ultimately good and his methods work better, and the good side trying to say, no, here's why that's too far. That's just the first page. But everything comes to a head this issue. Bruce Wayne's identity is discovered by a certain villain. It turns out Catwoman has a big surprise that Bruce finds out about. Catwoman and Bruce have a large morality discussion about the different ways they handle crime. Final battles, everything is sorted out, but not necessarily in the way that you think it'll be. Just a strong ending to what was a great series. When this is collected, we'll definitely be recommending this to our customers for years to come.
Yeah.
Anyone who brings up Tim Burton Batman, I'm going to be like, go get that right now. So, good final issue. I don't feel I need to say any more about it, other than here is the Tedesco variant.
I wonder if they're going to try to tackle any more after this, if there's going to be another.
That's a good question. I thought it was certain when it started, but I don't know how it did with all the delays.
Yeah.
So, because unfortunately, there's one little thing to art, and that is that there's a business person making decisions right above art.
Yes. And my final one I'm going to talk about is Batman Beyond Neo Year number 4. This is out this week. Been very popular, this new Batman Beyond series. And in it, you learned a little bit more about the villain, and that maybe anyone could be the villain in this. You have to read it to find out. I need to go back and read this one, knowing that and seeing if maybe everyone who you thought was a bad guy, were they really bad, or was it something else? So that is Batman Beyond New Year number 4, and we have the Ward variant. Very cool. Almost looks like Galactus.
All right, my last one to talk about is Legion of X number 3. So in this issue, Doctor Strange stops by Krakoa. You know, they don't always let non-mutants there, but Doctor Strange stops by because there is the missing Iraqi god they've been trying to track down, and so, you know, let's pull in a mystic when we're talking about gods and all. Doctor Strange could be useful. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler is still working with the new character Weaponless Zen to track down this missing god. And then, of course, there is the Skinjacker character, whose name is Switch, who has been jumping from mutant body to mutant body and then mutilating them and then swapping bodies that everybody is still trying to track down. So more of all those storylines in this very wild, crazy series. Here is the variants. This is the Davila variant. And we have the Dodderman Hellfire variant, where we get to see what Havoc's going to wear.
Which Doctor Strange is in it?
The regular Doctor Strange. So
when does this take place?
I would say, yeah, I hadn't considered that. Maybe before Death of Doctor Strange, I guess.
Whoops.
That is a good point. So that is our show for this week. I hope we have done our job. We just went through, I believe, 25 comics, all their variants and all of their incentives, spending about, like 3 minutes per comic. So it's tough to do. We try to give you a little more information than a lot of other shows out there. We want you to go in your comic store and feel like you know what is going on with these books and in these books without us revealing too much. We also like to be the first people to tell you the major news about them, but we've actually read them, because a lot of news out there is incorrect. So if you enjoyed this and you're watching our YouTube channel, please hit subscribe. We will be back next week to do this all over again. In the meantime, we'll be back on Friday as well with our show Comics from the Future, where we go over all the comics that are available to order.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us, and hope you had a great 4th of July. Have a great rest of your week.